Welcome to the presentation, iPad use in the class, things you might like to know before you get class set. You can follow me at Dramatic Science on Twitter. Using the #EdChat, you can respond to this video if you like. First thing you're going to have to know about iPad use, handing it to a student, is they're going to want to personalize it. First thing I did when I got an iPad was personalize it to suit me, so you can notice a number of folders that are esoteric to what I do, and an organization that works for me. This will be different for every student and for every person that uses it. And the most common thing for students to do is to change the background, because they like to see themselves and they like for others to see them as well. All iPads come with a few apps, but those apps are very limited in terms of what they can do, and they need to be augmented with your own selections for the activities that you're going to be doing in your classes. And that is the most time-consuming process that you're going to find using any iPad in the classroom, because you're not letting the students personalize them themselves. You yourself as a teacher or as a district are going to have to decide what it is that goes on these iPads and why those are the tools that you want. Apps are both paid and free. There are many free apps that are useful, but the best way to find them is to simply open up and start browsing and see what's out there. May I suggest to you a couple of places to start? Looking in the education folder is obvious, but utilities is also an incredibly useful area. Productivity, business, also reasonably useful for things that students might need. And reference, of course, students are going to want references just like the library. But the internet is such a useful tool that often this is a specialized usage only, and not very good, in my opinion, for a cart. Photo and video tools, depending on how much media you're going to have your students creating and editing, may also be a place that you'll like to look. Unfortunately, in our world, security is such an important aspect to any digital device that we're bringing into our schools. And the security on the iPad is no different. It is important, before a student ever gets hold of the iPad, that restrictions are created. Restrictions is a button in the settings under the General tab that allows you to go in and customize what students are and aren't allowed to do. If you click that button, it brings forward this menu item, and you can see some of the current things that you can do on my particular iPad. Once you click Enable Restrictions, it's going to bring up a new window that looks like this, asking you for a passcode. These passcodes are easily crackable, and they're not a perfect solution, but it is one more step that students have to go through if they really want to go in and change a bunch of things. It's also important to decide if you're going to let teachers have access to these as they customize these iPads. Anyone using an iPad will discover that the first thing that people like to do is take pictures of themselves and their friends. This is a great thing. It's part of documenting what's important to a student and important to us as a social species, and seeing ourselves, as we know, is a common practice. Unfortunately, this does tend to jam up the photo roll with a bunch of unique and yet completely irrelevant media. One of the first things that I like to take students through is how to take a picture of yourself and then how to get rid of it before you put it back on the shelf, so that we can keep the iPad's memory available for doing the productivity activities that we're trying to do. Here's a quick view of my camera roll. You can see there's all kinds of different photos in here. And the camera roll is a very important place on the iPad, because this is what I found the biggest strength of an iPad is in the classroom, is its ability to capture moments instantaneously, moments of learning, moments of epiphany, moments of students doing good work, and really just a visual reminder to yourself about the things that have been going on in class. This is one of the first lessons all students and all teachers should have as they're going through this, how to modify and change and navigate within the camera roll, in my opinion. File sharing on an iPad at this point in time is very difficult. If I'm a student in class and I take some pictures and notes that are important for the work that I'm doing over the next couple of classes, there's no guarantee that another student won't have that iPad in between the time the project is started and the time it's completed. What happens to your data then is not as safe as it necessarily could be if it was your own device. So what students have to get into the habit of doing, what we as teachers have to get into the habit of doing, is allowing students time in the activity to get their files off of the iPad in an effective manner. The best solution I've come up with so far is this program down in the bottom right called Wi-Fi Photo Share. It not only shares photos, but shares videos that students have created very quickly onto any local network, taking care of any FOIP concerns that you might have initializing a Dropbox account or an iCloud account for your students. Now that we've looked at file sharing and file creation and app management systems and security issues, really the most important time that any teacher spends creating a resource for students or a lesson for students that might use the iPads. It's how are students and how are you going to deal with the problems of project management. The use of an iPad requires some professional development, quite frankly. You have to make some mistakes, you have to learn alongside of the students, and it requires a new perspective, hence the picture I've used to illustrate project management. You and the students together are going to have to think differently about the way projects are handled, about the time that projects will take, and about the types of projects that they'll be able to do. And this is both trial and error and also where you're going to want to search up resources online. Many teachers have already forged the path for you. It's just getting familiar with the territory. I want to close out with 4 apps that I use readily as a teacher. One of the most powerful things I've discovered with iPads in classrooms is what happens when you hand a teacher an iPad. At first, it took me about 3 months to get used to the system, to get it personalized, find the apps that I was going to use, and get used to using it for everything in my classrooms. But now that I've arrived at that point, it's become a necessary tool, and in fact replaced most other things that I use in the classroom. In the upper left, you see a screenshot of the in-class app. This is my daybook. It's not only now a written thing that happens at the end or during each class, but also a photo and video tool that allows us to capture what exactly is happening in each class. Bottom left, teachers require timers. There's some great timers out there and applications that just simply allow us to alarm ourselves and the students to beginning and ending of activities. Our school currently uses a system called RenWeb in order to keep track of grades and attendance. There is an app that syncs in nicely with this on the iPad. And if your school uses Moodle account, Moodle 2.0 has an app that allows students, rather than uploading through Wi-Fi Photo, to upload directly to Moodle. And the integration with Moodle is quite robust. I'd like to close out by offering that I believe the most powerful tool an iPad has is its ability to capture the moment. When it comes to formative assessment, no longer are we restricted to just simply writing at the bottom of an assignment our thoughts and our reflections on it. It's no longer a clipboard activity to keep track of observations of students in class. We can now video them, take pictures of them, be there with them as they're doing it, and also teach them how to capture their own learning. And so here are 3 moments I've captured recently of important events at our school that are meaningful to me and illustrate, I think, pivotal events. And I challenge you too to pick up an iPad and try it out for yourself.